there's a lot of stuff happening in Iran right now, okay? And we're not going to talk about that, right? Because we don't need to talk about it. There's nothing that we say up here is going to change anything that's going in Iran with the Iranian government and U.S. government and Iranian government and so on. We're not going to talk about that. So we're not going to ask them questions about it. What do you think about your government? That kind of stuff. We're not there. We don't have to do that. So we won't do it. So I just want to say that, okay? I'm going to do a timeline really fast. I'm going to do it in about 2 minutes because I want to, and so you're really going to have to pay attention to this, okay? To what I'm about to say. And look, I'm just going to go line by line. There's this dude, Reza Shah Pahlavi. Pahlavi, you say? Pahlavi. Okay. And he was a military guy, and he staged a coup in 1921, and he took over Persia at the time, okay? And he enacted a lot of changes, a lot of reform, man. Industrial growth, built a train network, energy networks, all sorts of things. This is the very beginning of the oil booms around the world. So this was like, they really moved Iran forward in a little more so in the modern age. But it was very much a military government, okay? But there were also a lot of social reforms and so on, right? Secular reforms. Not going to be a religious government, per se. So then, at the beginning of World War II, he started to get a little cozy with the Germans, and the British didn't like that, and the Soviet Union didn't like that, and the Americans didn't like that, so we booted him out, and his son took over. And his son, when you hear people, if you ever hear the history of Iran and people talk about the Shah, who they're talking about is the son. So it's Mohammad Reza. So he took over. All right. Then in 1953, there was, people were in Iran were going like, okay, man, we want to have elections. We want to move forward in a lot of different ways. So there were some politicians who were really pushing the government in different ways. And the Shah tried to just really push some guy out. There ends up being a coup. And the Shah has to leave Iran in 1953. But the CIA, because now oil is really important, and Iran has, although we didn't know it at the time, Iran has the world's fourth largest reserves in petroleum and the second largest reserves in natural gas. So you can imagine, man, the world's going like, yo, Iran, it's like Venezuela. It's like that's a place you really want to be able to control, especially in the 1950s because of where Iran is located in the Cold War. So the West is battling the Soviet Union and one thing after another. So the CIA gets involved and they put him back into power. MI6 and the CIA. And MI6 is the Secret Service of the British government. And so now the Shah's back in power. He continues with these reforms, but he develops this organization, this secret police organization called the Savak. I call it Savak. I don't know what Iranians call it, right? And so he's pushing forward more secular reforms, land reform, education reforms, liberties. Women are, we're just like in the West, Iranian women wearing mini skirts and bikinis and not having to cover. It's like, it's not religious at all. But there's a whole religious movement going on underground of very conservative Muslims who are trying to get in there and be like, this is too secular, we don't want this, it's very similar to Christian nationalism here in the United States. There's a lot of Christians who would like to see this country be a Christian nation, and man, they got a very different vision about what the United States would look like than the vast majority of you. And so that's similar in Iran, similar thing, right? So 63, they have this, what's called the White Revolution, but they're ruling, the Shah is ruling a great deal through force. And the fear of Savak, man, they were like a brutal organization. If you got out of line, you were just in deep trouble, right? So a lot of brutality. And also the up and down with the economy. They pushed out the Ayatollah who was the main religious leader. He was now in exile. They kicked him out of the government for, I think, 15 years, if I remember correctly. And they kicked him out of the country. And he was living abroad thinking, like, okay, he'll settle down, he'll shut the F up, and we can just run things. But things just continued to spiral economically and politically, and eventually the country collapsed. I think the Shah had cancer, as I remember correctly, left the country, and it's just a problem. Things collapse. You may have heard the story of how the Iranians, civilian students in particular, took Americans hostage, some 50 plus Americans hostage in the embassy, and they held them for 400 days or something. Right? This was really intense. Like, it was a big thing. Meanwhile, we're in there playing the games, man, because we want access to the oil and natural resources and so on and so forth. Anyway, the Ayatollah Khomeini comes back, and now we're gonna have a Muslim government in Iran, right? It's all gonna be run. We're gonna run this according to. It's just the Islamic, what do you call it? The Islamic Republic of Iran? Is that it? Islamic Republic of Iran, okay? So anyway, that's it. 79, now here we are. Decades later, we're still trying to figure this all out and work it out, and now things have reached another peak, okay? That's our story. That's where we got. So my reason for telling you that is to say, hey, look, we've been involved in Iran for a long time. So, like, for example, once the CIA brought the Shah back in and MI6, that meant the Shah's future and the United States' future, by way of the CIA and the military, they were completely intertwined. So he could not have ruled without us. So we gave lots of arms, shipments of arms, the training of the Savak, the secret police, and so on. We're all in this together. Man, it's not easy to do that in 5 minutes. And I think the idea that the thing that's really important for me is, we've had a hand in Iranian history, and we have a hand in how we got to this present place. And I think that's always really important to say and to see and to understand. It's really important that we see this is a global system. And if you could describe Persian culture in just like a few words, like what would you say?
I say, like, there's a lot of stuff about respect, especially with like older people, that like you see that shift when you come here. I don't know, like whether it's to your like professors or like even in Iran, if someone's like 2 years older than you kind of have to put a respect if it's like your older siblings or anything.
Do you do it with the conjugation of the words of verbs?
Not just words. It's like we have a whole lot of stuff. There's this thing it's like famous in Iran. It's called taraf.
Taraf.
Yeah. So it means that like when I'm offering you something, you have to say no like 3 times.
Yeah.
And like my parents get here, and then someone's trying to gift them something, and they say no. And then they say, oh, okay. And then they're like, wow, how rude.
Yeah, how rude is that?
Yeah.
Following up on that, we actually like the entire grammar changes. So like if you're familiar with German, we use a third person plural when we talk to people who are at a higher position. Like this could be social, age, that's like a whole different structure of the language. But if I want to say a couple words to describe the Persian culture, I would say maximalist, hospitable, and very prideful.
And you have a lot to be proud of. Like if you don't understand Persian culture, Persian culture is central to Western civilization. Iran was right at the head, the two heads of the Silk Road, so the East and West. How important is family?
It's very important for us. Like some might say like family is way more important than friends or like other type of relationship. At least like for the people I know, and most of the people in my country at least think like that. I don't know if they agree or not, but
yeah, that's completely true. They're very family oriented.
How about education?
Education is like super important. Like, yeah.
It's very, 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 very important, and they are very like it's. You will know at the age of 5 how important it is for you to become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer.
Yeah.
Also, if you have like only a high school diploma, it's like you just don't have like nothing. Like high school diploma is like being a dropout. Like literally, if you have like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just disrespectful for parents to tell another person that, yeah, my kid only has a high school diploma.
And they wouldn't even admit
like
that.
they will be like
Yeah.
why are you even like
Or even
talking
like
about
sociology major. Like,
Yeah.
Or even an undergraduate degree is not
Yeah.
enough.
So
It
my
is
parent-
not
yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
You need to have a master's degree or a PhD. Like an undergraduate degree is like not enough at all for you to go anywhere by the, Iranian
And is
standards.
okay, so go even to across the board in Iran, not just in Tehran.
I mean, that is everywhere. Like, even in school, like, it's super competitive. Like, we have, like, rankings for every, like, when like, if a student is, like, doing bad, like, the school is going to put him out there like he's doing bad. And, like, it's all, like, academics, too. Like here in the U.S., like, you got scholarships for, like, different sports to get, like, a D1 athlete. It's such a big thing. But, like, you might be, like, the best soccer player in Iran. But, like, if you don't do well on that one test, which is called concours, which is similar to, like, SAT, but, like, that's the only metric. Or you have, like, some other stuff, like, I don't know, military and stuff. You can't, like, get into a good program.
Like, so you could be the best soccer player in the country,
Yeah.
but if you flunked out on your tests,
It's just, like, academics, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say something because I did do my undergraduate degree in University of Tehran. It is that it's actually more of a thing if you're not from the bigger cities, because the idea is that if you come from a less privileged background, then the one thing that you can do for yourself to make a name for yourself and go anywhere is just through education. So I was at the, quote unquote, best university in the country, where we had in concours all of the students who were in like, maybe the top 100 people in the country in their major. Around like my rank was around 500 in the country nationwide, and that was considered to be low, not a good rank. So you can imagine what kinds of students go there. And the friend who sat next to me, her parents were illiterate, and she was from a village in a very rural part of a very like no-name province in Iran. And then when you spoke to our professors, a lot of them also came from backgrounds where their parents were farmers and maybe they didn't have an education. So that's pretty common.
What's the biggest misconception about Iran?
First thing I hear is, like, they think we speak Arabic. It's a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
I think they were Arabs.
Yeah.
And also the second thing that I think, it's that everybody thinks that our country is like poor and we're like not that educated, and like our English, the way we act, and like our religion and like every other thing, like they think that we're very strict and
Very
like
backward.
and then that we hate Americans, to be specific. Like I think like something that like everybody here thinks a little bit, at least the ones that know about Iran, is that they think that we like hate Americans or like Europeans or like other things like that.
I would say one of the things that I've seen slightly start to shift in the past couple of years, which I'm grateful for, is that I feel like all of that, besides the Arab thing, which is very true, I think most people assume that we're Arabs and we're not. We're ethnically different.
But there's nothing wrong with being Arab.
Absolutely not. I have a lot of Arab friends, but we're ethnically different groups. And we do have an Arab community in the south, but the majority are the people who are Fars, and we're like an entirely different ethnic group. And I think a lot of it also comes from the fact that we write using the Arabic alphabet, but it's a different language. And it's a whole story. But I want to say a lot of the values that I think people associate with Iran and Iranian culture is mostly as I think one of the videos that you had showed, what is mostly narrated through the media, which is a lot of the values that are reflected through the governments. And then the people are not like that at all. Like if they know you're American, they're actually going to love you so much.
Okay, wait, hang on. What I found when I started traveling in the Muslim Arab areas, Arab Muslim countries, is that people would make a distinction between a government and a people. And they'd be like, no, we don't really like your government, and we have a problem with your government, but you're okay, you're Americans, like we love you. And this was true even in Palestine. So I even traveled in Palestine. I traveled in Palestine with my Jewish friend, and who's wearing, like a Star of David, and we're traveling, and Arabs, Palestinian Arabs would be like, oh, you're Jewish, you Americans? And be like, yeah, we're Americans. Oh my God, oh great, oh, we hate your government, but you guys, hey, come have tea, have sweets, like, oh my God, right? Most people will say, oh, I make a distinction between the people and the government. But most people don't really do that. But Arab Muslims really did that. They really, really made a distinction. They were able to hold that in their minds. So when you say Iranians, no, if you're Americans, they'll love you. Do they really, or do they blend the two?
No, they actually do. Like the government and us, again, we're like very like boldly say that we're two different like type of people or whatever you want to put it in. But yeah, we do. We love every other country, to be honest. We just like foreign people. Like we just like, and Americans, we do love you guys, whoever is American here. It's just the way they show it to the media. And
so that's a misconception, right?
Yes.
I'd say honestly, kind of depends. Like the young generation, totally. Like I would say like 90% like would never have like that thought of like, I don't know, hating the people from other countries. But I think there definitely exists some people, especially older people, that will have the hatred towards like people from other countries. I think like this is like a selective group that is in the United States that's already like, this doesn't represent the entire country. There's definitely some people that are like that, but I think the younger generation that is like more exposed to media would not have that.
Especially when it comes to the older generations, it kind of comes down to what side of the political spectrum they're from.
Got you.
Because that's a revolution generation. So you'll run into a lot of people who love Americans and they have family in the US and they would love to visit. And then you'll have some people who are a little bit more reserved. But my experience is that I've never, even in like the more, pro-government, if like for lack of a better term, group of people, they don't have anything against American people, and most people actually really love Americans. They find the country to be fascinating, and like the American dream is very big. I will say that.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's so interesting. How's crime in Iran?
Crime within the cities by civilians is very low. You'll get a slightly higher crime rate in larger cities, as you do. Yeah. There are cities where there is no crime. So like the part of Isfahan where I lived, I was like 10, 12 years old, and I would go out at like 3 a.m. in the morning. My parents wouldn't be worried. I wouldn't be worried. There was no issues. The majority of the crime that happens is not by the civilians, but has just as much as I will say about it, because we don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, so it's like there's like bureaucracy crime. Okay. All right. Yeah.
And then I would say most of the crimes that happen is really due to need. Like, there's not a lot of like hate. Like there's not a lot of murders. Yeah, not a lot of violent crimes. They're like, there's a lot of
petty crimes. Yeah, just petty crimes.
Like people stealing
phones is like very common. Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know. It's different from the U.S.
Yeah, Iran's been under sanctions from the West for how many decades now, right? I mean, the economy in Iran is really suffering because of that. So. And
that's been more of a increase over the past, I want to say, decade, when the sanctions really started to hit really, really hard. Yeah. But it is still at that capacity of just petty theft, maybe petty crimes.
Okay, can I add something to that? It really depends which side of Tehran you live in. Mid to upper town of Tehran, respectfully, that really barely happens.
Exactly.
But
I
agree.
Down,
like the video that we're gonna watch.
Yeah, but like if you go more down, obviously, like any other country or any other city in the world, that would be the case.
How about guns? Do civilians own guns?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no one owns guns.
Not at all. It's like they don't also want to hold guns. Like they just don't want to do that. And also it's like illegal, obviously, but they don't see the need, and as well as they don't mentally want it as well. So they don't really.
So you got this divide, right? You have the secular Iranians, which the three of you clearly are secular Iranians, right? And then you have the religious Iranians who are, kind of like very much in the United States, like I talked about Christian nationalists and so on. And, Christian nationalism it's a very complex thing. I don't even know what it means. I couldn't even describe what a Christian nationalist believes, because people who would identify as Christian nationalists believe so many different things, you know what I mean? Well, same with Muslim nationalists. And so people believe so many different things, but there is a divide. How evident is that if I'm in Iran, how evident is it that I'm with someone who's really religious and Islam focused, or I'm with someone who's pretty secular?
Like during my undergrad years, I had a couple of roommates who were very conservative Muslims, to the level that when we would go out together, people wouldn't believe me if I said I was friends with them. It was a whole thing because I was like very much like the ladies you see in the video, and then they were like.
So you weren't hijabi? You didn't wear.
Well, I mean, now the force of hijab has kind of, it's a bit more loose ever since the stuff that happened a couple of years ago. At the time, I definitely had to cover my hair, so that was definitely a big thing.
Did you
like
seriously
colorful?
cover?
No. Just like it was there. So the shawl that I had to wear, the hijab quote unquote, was there, but not tight. You could see all of my hair. My outfit was pretty short. Like the sleeves were short. The dress was a dress, but it was short, and it was like colorful. And they were like pretty much in the, like if you see religious Iranian Muslim women, that's how they dressed. And we would go out together and it was like people wouldn't believe me. So I would say even within the people who are religious, it's not necessarily that. It's more of like, okay, so you're religious, but are you pro-government or are you anti-government? It's not like just because you're religious does not automatically translate to that. And I've also partially seen the other side as well, though less evident, that even if you're secular, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be anti-government. Though it's a smaller proportion. So I guess less of a religious thing, more of a perspective about the government structure.
I would like to add to that. She's pretty right about it. Both sides of people in Iran also are fine with each other. It really depends again on the government. It's not like you can have a family member that could be like fully hijab, like type of thing, and then you can have a family member that really doesn't care about it.
Yeah, that's all fine. People respect, like we all kind of have come, especially the new generation, we've all kind of come to the understanding that you believe whatever you want to believe, as long as I respect you and you respect me, we're all good. So
that's those of you who are Christians, by the way, in the U.S., it's very similar, right? I have two of my siblings are very Christian, and one of my siblings is very not Christian, and I don't know what I am, but we get on. It's all good. Yeah, so it's very similar. Okay, it's just like everywhere else, right? Is your family pretty secular?
Yeah, I would say so. But like, I was gonna say this, like, same as they said, like, I don't know, I have family members that like they pray, but like, I don't know, I wouldn't really consider them Muslim, but like, people ask like what I am, I'm like, I don't know, am I Muslim? Like, if I'm in this class, like, I don't know, in front of like all these people, like in this country, like, there's some loose definition of like what makes a Muslim. Yeah. And I think I can't identify myself, or I can't identify my parents as Muslims.
Okay, so like on TV talk shows, are you gonna have like different?
The TV is different because they have rules.
TV is government, our TV is state TV.
So the secularists are not represented on television?
It's the government's TV, so they reflect the government perspective.
Yeah, okay.
Like solely the government perspective. That's the state TV, so.
But it's funny, like we have TV shows where like you might see like some scenes without like no hijab or stuff. Like you can see the difference like clearly when it's like not really restricted by the government that much.
Got you.